Welcome back to the Show Up Dad, the podcast that explores the complexities of modern fatherhood and empowers dads to show up as their best selves. I'm your host, David Mendonca, and today we have a very special guest joining us. But before we dive into today's conversation, I want to take a moment to thank our sponsors for their support. This episode of the Show Up Dad is brought to you by Tallman Equipment, a leading provider of high-quality tools and equipment for powerline industry. Visit tallmanequipment.com to explore their wide range of products and discover how they can help you. Additionally, I'd like to give a special shout out to the Show Up Dad Foundation, an organization dedicated to supporting fathers in their journey towards becoming the best versions of themselves. Through their workshops, resources, and community, the Show Up Dad Foundation empowers dads to show up, be present, and make a positive impact on their children's lives. To learn more about their mission and how you can get involved, visit theshowupdadfoundation.org. Today, we have a truly remarkable guest joining us, the renowned clinical psychologist, Dr. Stephen B. Poulter. Dr. Poulter is not only a popular figure in the field of psychology, but also a compassionate advocate for men's mental health. With his extensive experience and expertise, he has dedicated his career to helping men navigate through the challenges that stem from shame. In his book, Modern Masculinity, a compassionate guidebook to men's mental health, Dr. Poulter offers practical guidance and insights for men of all ages who are on the path to developing a balanced, compassionate, and positive masculinity. During our conversation today, we will delve into the key issues addressed in Dr. Poulter's book, exploring how shame affects men's lives and relationships. We'll discuss strategies to overcome these challenges, foster healthy self-esteem, and cultivate meaningful connections with our loved ones. Whether you're a new dad navigating the complexities of fatherhood or a seasoned parent seeking personal growth, this episode is for you. Dr. Stephen B. Poulter's wisdom and practical insights will inspire you to embrace your journey of modern masculinity with compassion and authenticity. So grab a cup of coffee, find a comfortable spot, and get ready to dive into this enlightening conversation on the Show Up Dad with our guest, clinical psychologist and author, Dr. Stephen B. Poulter. Let's get started. Welcome to our show, brother.
Hey, man. David, I hear that intro. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm just a dude trying to, get our way, get through all this and, take care of the family and everyone else involved. I want to say this to men. If you're in the role of a father, you're a father. If you're, there's a lot of stepdads out there. Stepdad is a legal term, not a psychological term or an emotional term. I tell guys all the time, I've got my new wife has 3 boys. You're their dad. Being a father figure doesn't mean you're replacing somebody. It means you're taking on, like you said, David, mentoring and being a positive influence on these boys and young ladies and women. I tell the guys all the time, part of our calling in life is to be a mentor.
Yes.
Across the board. Whatever job you're doing, you have a chance to influence younger men. And basically guys under 35. Us guys over 35 in our 50s, that's part of our calling. All of us, is to help these guys navigate the road of life and mentor them. Mentoring isn't controlling. Just, being supportive. As I always say, David, this book would not get done if my wife did not emotionally fund me. Emotionally fund it. And some of my closest buddies, a couple of them said, hey, you got to go do this. And that's as men, David, like your wife does what you've done with your career. She emotionally funds what you're doing. And your closest brothers, that is what men crave.
Yes.
So, David, want I just keep going on my quick introduction here? Or you want to throw out some questions?
Well, first off, I see this great need because, right now, more than ever, all you hear is toxic masculinity, masculinity. It's insane, And I also see the other half where you have these guys that have bought into this bravado of, you're not a man unless you're slapping your wife and beating your kids. And, Jesus never said to turn the other cheek. And it's like, it's completely imbalanced. I was even on a podcast, Dr. Steve, where the guy actually asked me what I do to become or to be more like a man. Like, he's like, do you go and chop wood? And I'm like, dude, brother, I don't need to do that stuff. I grew up doing that. You know what I mean? I know what it is to be a man. I had a male role model. What I'm trying to
Yeah,
do is just dull them sharp edges that I have so I can be there more present for my family, you
right.
know?
Hey, David, okay, when I hear what you just said, it makes my hair curl. And I have really straight hair.
Mhm.
And it's really gray. I got to tell you this right now. Dude, whoever said that to you, I'd say it to his face and I'd say it empathically. There is no physical appearance for masculinity. It's
Mm,
all internal. And this idea that masculinity is muscular, chopping wood, throwing down some beers, what you couldn't be any further from the truth.
mm,
Toxic is undeveloped men. Modern masculinity are guys that are hit it on all five gears.
mhm,
They're in the fast lane. They're not grinding in park. And this whole thing, I hear these guys talking about bitterness about women. Toxic is a term, it's the dark side of masculinity. It's
mhm,
undeveloped. It's always
mm,
been there. And part of, Dave, you and I were talking before we got on the air here. When I hear what the guys say like that, David, I'm like, dude, you got to go inside.
mhm,
That bravado is a defense mechanism against feeling powerless. I don't
mm,
know who abused you. I don't know who bullied you. I don't know who molested you. But I'm telling you, something happened.
mhm.
Because you don't act that way, David, if things were good.
How now that we've defined what toxic masculinity
Yeah.
is, what are some of its harmful effects on individuals and society? What have you seen?
Hey, let's go. Before we go there, Dave, let's talk about what
Mhm.
masculinity is about. Let's talk about
Okay.
healthy.
Okay.
Fair enough? And we'll
Yeah.
go full circle. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, big guy, part of masculinity, healthy masculinity, is that it's the four components. It's your body health,
Mhm.
emotional health, relationship health, and your personal mental health and spiritual health. All four pieces work together.
Mhm.
And the days of ignoring your body, it keeps going until guys in their 50 have a stroke. And today, David, this right now as we're talking, there'll be 1,000 heart attacks in this country. 900 of those men die. Of
Wow.
those 900, I think 95% had no pre-existing health condition. But all that tells us, and the American Heart Association, is that your emotions spill into your body.
Wow.
Your body is not meant to deal with your emotional life. Your body is meant to carry you, not
Mm.
fix your emotions or your spiritual issues or your relationship issues. So,
Man, and it's so true because I mean, more than ever, I'm running to guys who are having heart attacks. Heck, my brother died of a heart attack, at 38. So,
see,
man, that's crazy.
David, I've had in my book, I talk about, I've had three guys have heart attacks in my office. I start to have the onset. And thank God
Wow.
there's an ER downstairs or a medical
Yeah.
office. And every one of them was talking about heartbreak. One kid lost his kids to a custody. Another one got divorced. Other one, um, girlfriend left him. But the
Mhm.
heartbreak, that's real. That is
Yeah.
a real event. It's not, some ethereal thing. The other thing I want to throw out, Dave, is that when I talk about the soft stuff, my neighbor down the street says, what are you, gay now? I'm like, no,
Mm.
no. I go, I always say, what are you afraid of feeling? Dude, you can't be angry or happy. There's a lot of in between.
Yeah.
And it's in between, David, that guys are starving for. All right.
Mm.
And being a man is being your best self. It's being your best self.
Yeah. It
That's not
is.
no, man. I can tell you, David, your body, like you say, high blood pressure, all this stuff goes into our body. It, if we don't listen to our body, it's going to get our attention,
Mhm.
whether it be psoriasis, a disc, pulled ligaments, chronic colds. And a lot of guys got COVID. It wasn't because of COVID, because they were run down.
Mm.
You can't drink, smoke, and not sleep and think you're going to not pay the bill. That's
Yeah.
your body. There's a message. That's part of modern masculinity. What's your body saying to you?
What's like that warning light in your car that,
David,
you got to
perfect.
pay attention to,
Absolutely. What's the dashboard saying to you?
Hmm.
The second piece of healthy masculinity is you integrate your physical with your emotional. And the emotional side of you is relationships
Mhm.
with yourself. The first one starts with you. And liking yourself. And that we'll get into the four horsemen, Dave, about what the four parts are. But
Yeah.
I tell guys, if you're married or have a girlfriend, She cannot be your only significant relationship. She can't be everything to you. The sisterhood knows this. They know. They have, mommy and me classes, book clubs. David, every guy needs at least one buddy he can talk to, or a
Yes.
couple buddies that are on the inner circle of their life. Because we need to view men through the eyes of men, not through the eyes of a woman. Nothing wrong with that. But we need to, like David, you and I are talking. I feel you as another man, another father. I can see you through the eyes of a man, and it's very unique. And it's not exclusive. We're inclusive. We're including men. And Dave, there's no physical appearance for masculinity. There's only behavioral and emotional and spiritual qualities. It has nothing to do with steroids or going to the gym. And I see guys that do that. Okay, my thought is, don't avoid your life. You could be jacked, but that doesn't make you a man. It doesn't make you a man. Being a man, we talked about that, is healthy masculinity is compassion, empathy, the ability to have a life plan, and lastly, taking responsibility and forgiveness. So Dave, that's a long answer to what you're earlier.
Yeah.
Toxic is I don't like myself. Because I don't like myself, I'm not going to like others. And empathy is my inability to see differences and to feel other people's struggles in life. And that allows men to be those two missing pieces, David. It's like handing a 5-year-old a loaded gun.
Yes.
It's going to go off. It's impossible. It's going to kill somebody, metaphorically.
Would you say that when I was listening to your book, great book, by the way.
Thanks, brother.
You said that one of the root of many problems in men is the old man's template of be like us, right?
Yes.
This is a narrow belief system, which is fear-based paradigm that fuels racism and prejudice.
Yeah.
That really stood out to me, man, because you're absolutely right. And like what you're saying right there, we all feel like we need to be along to something, right? And
right. It's interesting. Even at my age and when I've gone, I still get pushback on this book. And when I start talking about this stuff, and I have to be very dogmatic and say, listen, John Wayne and, the Marlboro Man riding a horse off in the sunset by himself. The guy had emphysema and died alone. Okay. That's not our model. That's not a good model. Come on. And this dude, the John Wayne syndrome, what people forget, on that movie set was 300 other people with him.
Yeah.
When you think about, he might have been the star, but he wasn't alone. And I tell guys, if you don't have male friends, go deal with your father. Let's just jump in the father factor. Because prejudice starts with a father and son problem.
Wow. Explain more to that.
I'm going, David, we're going head first into this.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Let's do it, man. Gang members have one thing in common. Absent fathers. And they're looking for the brotherhood to help them. And many times it goes violent because anger. Women internalize their shame. Men externalize it. I ask people, name a mass shooter who's a woman. And
you can't really.
No names. And the LA Times did it, and they came up with nothing. So the first man we ever loved, David, was our father.
Yeah.
And by age 5, that relationship's either going north or south, where we either feel safe or we feel neglected. Now, I'm not saying rainbows and unicorns, but I'm not feeling supported and accepted by our dads. It changes the trajectory of our life. And as I tell men, older guys, their kids are older. Well, I really screwed up my kids. I go, it's never too late to ask for forgiveness and start doing things differently. It's never too late. And men who are very abusive were abused as children. Someone spoke to them or abused them. That is a learned behavior. That is a learned reflex to something going on where it wasn't safe. Your life wasn't safe. And when I hear about toxic men, I always think, okay, what happened with you and your dad? How did you get there? That just wasn't a default. That was a choice. That was a reaction to an unsafe home, maybe a single mom. There's no men. Or a lot of times I hear guys, their mom had a lot of different boyfriends and the boyfriends were not good guys. I get it. And we have to go inside and realize that little boy inside of you is safe today. You know, you're not 7, but a lot of guys act, when they get scared, they act like a 7-year-old and they get aggressive.
Yes.
Aggressiveness is more than testosterone, David. It's way beyond that. There's a lot of kids that have testosterone, but they're not shooting others or, you know, doing all this crazy stuff.
It's interesting. It is. It's interesting that you said that they get angry, right?
Yeah.
One of the things you said in your book is that, let's see here, you talked about how when you touch base on something, that's a clear, it's a clear indication that you're tapping into the root of your issues when you get defensive about ideas. You know?
David, that is absolutely, you hit a raw nerve.
Yeah.
Let's say about, you know, his wife or at work, and someone says, hey, listen, you're really, you know, you're very aggressive and whatnot. What are you talking about? Well, they know they're aggressive. It's very hard for them to accept why they're aggressive and how it impacts people. Yeah. When you get defensive, David, that's where you need to do the healing. You need to do the work.
And even think about it, like even when our wives, when they come to you with a problem or something like that, and then next thing you know, you're getting defensive about a situation. I mean,
yeah,
you know,
and that goes, Dave, you know, we haven't brought in, but shame. A lot of times guys hear their wives' complaints as they did something wrong or they're inadequate. And many times she just wants you to listen. She's not looking for you to fix it. You know, and that's a big one, David. I tell guys all the time, just ask her, do you need me to listen or do you want me to problem solve? Big difference.
Oh, yeah.
Big difference. And Dave, you're part of modern masculinity is, guys, you've got to check your body, man. You cannot, heavy drug use or drinking, there is a price to pay.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we're anti-alcohol, but any excessive behaviors, there's a reason why you're doing it. There's a form of self-loathing. There's a form of self. Yeah. Go ahead.
Would that be one of the key characteristics, behaviors associated with toxic masculinity, like substance abuse and stuff like that, tobacco, all that? Okay.
There's a self-loathing because we know deep down it's not good, but people indulge in it to an extent that's, you know, very, very detrimental to their life. I have a lot of guys that smoke marijuana every day. And I say, the chronic use, what are you numbing yourself out to? What's going on? What are you numb to? You know, or guys, you know, tell me they're not alcoholic, but they drink. When they drink, they binge drink and then they black out and have no idea what's going on. What is it? It's so terrifying. You just can't sit with it. And I tell guys, listen to your body. If your back, for instance, your back goes out, I would say, so what are you holding? Like, what are you carrying metaphorically? And they'll tell you, when they really stop and think about it, I carry this burden. I worry about my mom or this or that. There's something going on.
Yeah.
You know, and it also sexually, a lot of men have sexual issues. It's not because their body doesn't work. Maybe there's a fear of intimacy. Maybe there was something happened in their past that never got resolved. You know, 80% of sexual dysfunction is emotional, not physical.
And it's emotional. See that today. I mean, honestly, I see that today. I don't know how many guys I know were, they're all on TRT, testosterone replacement therapy. And they're younger than me. It blows my mind that they're having issues, you know?
And David, I hear that. And I'm like, guys, testosterone replacement therapy generally isn't for guys under 50.
Yeah.
or 60. Let's really be honest, okay? Under 60. Okay, a guy 65 using it, okay, that's a different story. That's a different story. But a guy 35 using it, I always kind of lift an eye like, what else is going on, man? What's going on? It's not about, rarely is it about your low testosterone. It's about an emotional issue that spills into your body. A relationship. Not feeling, and shame, David, male shame is underrated. Because that sense that we're not good enough. I think that's part of this cancellation with men, people trying to cancel out masculinity. It's impossible. You can't cancel out someone's soul. It's not going away.
Yeah.
Number one. And number two, this is a guy problem. We've created it. We can solve it. We're the problem and the solution.
I like that.
We're the problem and the solution. It's not about women. It's about us. We take care of our business on our side of the street. The other side is going to be just fine.
I like that. Truism of life, right? Where
Yeah,
you are always the problem and always the solution.
Yeah. Nothing, David, no one's bulletproof.
Yeah.
I put all the way through the book. No one's bulletproof. And the other piece of it is your net worth is not your self-worth. So many men judge themselves on their ability to provide, which is 1/10 of the role. There's 9 other parts to that pie chart.
Yeah.
I've got guys that provide fabulously for their families, but their wife has contempt for them, or the kids don't talk to them. And the richest man when he died was John D. Rockefeller in the 1930s. His kids didn't come to his funeral.
Wow.
And he talks about that. It was a big failure in his life.
Yeah.
He put money ahead of everything. And that out of balance, David, it catches up with you. It catches up.
Man, and it's so true because I know tons of stories, one in particular, I'm not going to say any names, but this individual was a well-known lineman, crazy as all heck, he had a nickname that matched his ego. I mean, this guy was larger than life, right? Open heart surgery, yada, yada. Anyhow, when he died, they had money saved for him and they wanted to know where they can send his ashes. Okay. Well, they called his only surviving daughter and she's like, you know what? Keep him. I don't want nothing to do with him. He was never a dad to me.
Ooh.
And the hall, our local union hall, had to go because he knew the guy personally, right? Had to go and bury him, cast his ashes away because no one wanted him. And when I heard that story, I was blown away. Blown away. Yeah.
Okay, guys, that's emotional bankruptcy. David, people ask me, what's rock bottom? That's it.
Wow.
Nobody comes to your funeral. They're relieved that you're gone.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, that's accumulation of years of neglect. Years of neglect. All right? And you're not going to make that up by focusing on your body. You're going to make that up by focusing on the intangibles of liking yourself, learning to tolerate differences, following your life plan, and taking responsibility. I always say to guys, if you're asking, what's my responsibility in this? Where do I stop and start in this? You're not going to miss much. You're just not. Because responsibility, you're not blaming. There's no blame. These things sound so simple until you do them.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Hey, David, I'm going to bring up the other thing is, I want to talk about cancer.
Yeah.
We know cancer is a rebellion of the body against the body. It's the cells, rogue cells, rebelling against the immune system. There's emotional cancer where we rebel against the better part of ourselves. I tell them shame is emotional cancer. And it's not, you either treat it or it's progressive.
Okay.
And that's why shame leads to violence. Violence leads to deprivation and despair, which leads to suicide and homicide. It's progressive.
Progressive. Okay.
As we know, if someone has skin cancer and they don't treat it, it's going to kill them. It will kill them.
Yes.
It will, unless there's an intervention. And shame, masculinity, requires intervention on our part through a spiritual door, an emotional door, but an intervention of dealing with that part of you that feels unlovable or defective. Because shame is psychological rebellion against your soul.
Wow.
Against the self. Shame is cancer. And when I explain that to guys, like, oh, okay. I have guys who have prostate cancer or testicle cancer, and I go, you guys, that's a sign. Your body's talking to you. And symbolically, it has to do with your masculinity. There's a part of you maybe you can't accept being a man. Sounds odd.
It is.
And Dave, I tell guys that shame blocks you from you. It blocks you from peace of mind and contentment. You want peace of mind and contentment, go through that wall. Go over it, go through it, around it, whatever it takes. And that's courage. That's courage, a man. Yeah. That's courage, David. And that I talk about escalating shame is really untreated shame, which leads to male violence, personally and socially.
Socially.
Yeah.
I found it very interesting too that like amongst men and women, like the common complaint is that there's not enough positive role models to emulate. I thought that was interesting.
See, I always twitch when I hear that.
Yeah.
I gotta believe that.
No.
A, not for a minute. And B, David, I go to church. I got guys, very spiritual, and they push me. The best role model I have is who I want to be.
Yeah.
Okay? It's inside. And guys who are really leaders always say, don't follow me. Follow this. Follow this. If you're following this, you're going to do well. Someone asked, what's the difference between the ego and the spirit? Spirit makes people feel better. The ego makes people feel worse.
Wow.
And when you're following your spirit, you're going to make people feel better. And you're going to feel better.
Man, that's a great analogy.
It's true.
I've had bosses where, you could tell they're definitely being led by the spirit. And I've had bosses that were completely ego driven. And man, that just led to chaos, led to confusion, led to people not even wanting to go to work,
David, let me tell you, a guy who, I see in sports, you see the coach who's embracing the players. What a difference. What a difference versus the ones that are shaming them. I tell parents all the time, if you tell your kid 35 times to do something and they're not doing it, at what point do you accept that doesn't work?
Yeah, exactly.
At what point do you accept that? Because, David, emotional pain is from our past. And it predates our partner usually by 30 or 40 years. The guys will tell me, God, my girlfriend's awful, this or that. I go, well, she's just a current face to an old issue.
Yeah.
Okay, that issue predates her. Should I break up with her? No. No. You need to deal with that before you deal with this. Okay?
Exactly.
And I push guys a lot to do that. Because when you resolve your past, David, it's amazing how your relationships go forward.
Yes.
Okay? And you tend to be nicer to people. And Dave, I just look at my notes here I want to share with you about that's one piece of it. The other piece I want to get into is the 4 horsemen. The 4 horsemen in mythology is usually negative or dark. But the way we're talking about, David, is the 4 corners to masculinity. And we go back to toxic. The first one is compassion. Compassion is the ability to like yourself and to like the parts of you don't like.
Yeah.
Whether physically, emotionally. And part of that, David, is forgiving yourself for things you've done. That's powerful.
That is.
That's the AA program. That's like the 12 steps at the end of the day. Living amends, you forgive yourself. Because compassion, if you can like yourself, David, there's room to see other people. And they can see your vulnerability. And vulnerability breeds courage, breeds strength.
Yes.
I mean, when you're vulnerable, David, you're bulletproof in a good way
You are. Yeah,
because you're not hiding,
definitely.
not hiding. And empathy is my ability to understand other people's suffering. And you cannot be toxic, David, and have empathy. They're incompatible. You cannot exploit a female coworker with empathy because you know what your behavior does to her.
Mm-hmm.
You know it. Or a guy who has an affair with empathy, you realize it will devastate your wife. It will ruin her. That alone stops you from doing it.
Mm.
That alone, I don't want to do that to my wife. Okay, that's a good choice.
Yeah.
That's empathy. You know,
Huh.
it sounds odd.
Yeah.
But I tell you, guys who um, may have a hard time committing to a relationship, many times they can feel their partner's feelings, but they're scared they're going to get suffocated. That goes back to the mother factor. Another piece of masculinity, David.
Yeah.
We talk about dads and moms. And every guy
Mm.
who's separated from his mom, David, has become a freestanding, autonomous man, is able to connect to a woman, is able to connect to people. Because you can't bring your mother into your marriage.
No, you
No
can't.
woman's playing second string. We both smile like it's not going to go. Doesn't
It could
end
go
well.
well.
No, can't do. I tell guys, leave your mother at home, and your wife is not second string. All right. If you in the book, I talk about this guy who breaks up with his girlfriend because
Uh-huh.
he's always spending time with his mom, blah blah, and he won't get engaged. And she's like, I'm leaving. So he meets with me for coffee and tells me how bad his girlfriend is, and I'm
Uh-huh.
like, I go, Jonathan, how honest do you want me to be? Okay, hey, just be on, lay it out. I go, dude, you blew it. This is a good woman. She called
Yes.
you out for not separating from your mom, and you're using her as a replacement part. You don't want to deal with the anxiety of displeasing your mom.
Hmm.
So you try to placate both of them. And by the way, I hope she finds somebody else, the guy that's standing on his own. He
Yeah.
hears that and just looks at me like I just stuck him with a lightning rod.
Yeah.
I go, dude, you've got to separate from your mom. And I tell guys that uh, you you don't want to be a man child. A man child is a man who's not separated from his mother
Mm.
emotionally, where he's autonomous. The hard part, David, as young boys, we're taught to please our mothers. Absolutely. And the juxtaposition is in adolescence and in our 20s and 30s, where we
Mm.
set emotional boundaries with our mom. And David, if
Mm.
I've told you this story, stop me. And this is God honest truth. My mom's on her deathbed. I'm 50 years old. I go, Mom, why didn't you like my wife? Honestly, tell me why. Honest God truth. I go, it's because you're mad at me because I left you? Yes. Did you want me to stay home and still live with you at 50 years old? What do you think she says?
Yes.
And she did. And David,
Hmm.
people talk about you get weak in the knees. One of the few times in my life I was weak in the knees. I'm like, what? No,
Wow.
the grandchildren, all this great stuff. Mom, are you kidding me? I'm not your husband. Dad is.
Mm.
I'm not your emotional husband. Yes, but you're my son, and that was your responsibility. I go, it wasn't.
Mm.
Therein, David has pushed me to write a lot of books.
Why do you feel that mothers feel that it's their son's responsibility? Because I've seen that a
Oof.
lot of times.
Okay, Dad, I want you and the listeners to know we are now going into the red zone. Now we're going to, we better put on our armor here because,
Hmm.
first of all, having a child, you
Yeah.
and I have not had children, and there's a special bond. That's a
Yes.
gift.
Yeah.
But our responsibility, David, as parents, is to launch our kids,
Yes.
not hold on to them as investment properties. A lot of moms, because the relationship is with their husbands isn't really, there's emotional gaps, and the son
Yep.
becomes the emotional crutch.
Hmm.
David, I see that where a lot of guys placate to their own detriment. They marry the wrong woman, honestly not the right woman for them, because they can't say no. I got guys in my practice, literally in their 50s. How'd you do this? I don't want to upset her. I go, but you married someone who you really didn't want to marry. I thought it might get better. And it got worse.
Mm-hmm.
I tell guys, your mother at the end of the day will respect you. You love her enough to say no and to tolerate her disapproval. My mom did not like my wife, and I always thought that was a good sign. I always thought that was a good sign.
Yeah.
And David, Iron John, in the book Iron John, I talk about in our book, where every son's got to go into his mother's, you're in your courtyard, and you wait for your mom to say, it's okay for you to go. But in the mythology, mom never said you can go. So Iron John's the guy, the wild man outside the gate, says to the little boy, come on, get the key and unlock the lock. And the guy goes, where's the key? Under your mother's pillow. Oh my God, how am I going to get it? You have to sneak into her room at night, and when she's asleep, take it from underneath her pillow and come out, unlock the gate, and go. And the boy goes, oh my God, she'll kill me. Well, do it when she's asleep. Anyway, he does it. Opens the gate and leaves. And as the story says, the minute he gets outside, he realizes his life starts.
Wow.
Deep down, his mother wanted him to do that, but she didn't know how to do it. She couldn't let go of him. He had to do
it. That's an interesting concept because I've seen this. Like I even witnessed it with my younger brother. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
it's definitely up to you because a mother. I don't believe mothers have the willpower to do that. Right? Like you said, it's a gift that God gives them because they're the ones who birthed us, right? And they have this attachment to us. And then when it becomes unhealthy, right? And we become that emotional surrogate for them, then they don't have the capability to let us go. So it's up to us as men to leave and cleave our parents, right?
So, and Jesus says it in the Bible, every man needs to leave his home.
Yeah.
There's a reason why that was put in there. It wasn't like every man needs to stay with his mom. And dads get this. Dads get this. My dad was from Australia. He left Australia after World War II. And I remember asking, what did your parents say to you? Oh, don't go, you'll die. Don't go. And he goes, I knew if I didn't go, I would die.
Wow.
He had to leave the country to make that break, but he did it. And then my grandma came out to visit. She could not believe my dad did that. And this was 20 years later. I'm like 10 years old. I remember thinking, what do you mean? Wait, you didn't say he could come here? Oh, no. I heard my dad like, wait, Dad, you came to America? Mom, Grandma said no? Oh, yeah. But if I didn't do it, you wouldn't be here. Wow. That really hit me like a lightning bolt.
Yeah.
My mom looks at me, don't get any ideas.
Wow. Well, just even think of the pioneering spirit behind that.
David, yeah, look at your feet. All of our, this is a great time in the history of men to really do something different.
Yes.
There's never been a better time to be a man. David, what we're talking about, I tell guys, unplug from the mothership. Don't disown it. Just unplug from it. Plug into yourself. Plug into your family. That's the best compliment you can give your mother and your father.
No, exactly. I agree 100%. To just the transition from back in the day where even my great grandpa, I mean, the dude left the Azore Islands in Portugal while he was 14 years old as a whaler to come to the United States. That's insane across the Atlantic,
And back then, there was no guarantee. There wasn't even antibiotic. Yeah. What, half the people died coming across? Or something like that? And your great-grandfather was a piece of horse leather in a good way.
Yeah.
But Dave, I can't imagine doing that.
Well, think about now the transition today where you can't even get 30-year-olds to leave their mother's basement. It's crazy.
David, there's rarely I ever yell at clients, okay? Lovingly yell, okay? I get a guy who's at 30, his parents are still paying his cell phone bill.
Wow.
I go, dude, Dave, let's go to another piece. Guys say to me, how do I know I'm marrying the right woman? one word, David, and this is as spiritual as I can be with a guy. If a woman respects you, she'll love you forever.
Mm-hmm.
She can love you and never respect you. I've had couples come in for female counseling, and Dave, I'll ask the question, ask the woman, do you respect him? Dave, it's 500. I get 50-50 say no.
Wow.
And I look at the guy, I go, I ask her, why don't you? Well, he's a really sweet guy. He's got a great heart, but he's very soft. What do you mean by soft? Well, he won't set boundaries. He's not really soft, but emotional.
Yeah.
She doesn't respect him.
Hmm.
She loves him, but she doesn't respect him. David, I know your wife respects you.
Yeah.
All right? And that's gold, because that means you're taking care of her and yourself, and you're doing the job.
Mm-hmm.
Like your grandfather at 14, David, I can't imagine leaving and going across the Atlantic.
Mm-hmm.
And that was not a cruise ship, okay?
No.
That was not an ocean liner.
That's crazy.
David, okay, that masculinity, that's a life plan.
Mm.
And you have to like yourself to do that. And that courage breeds empathy. You understand other people's struggles.
Yeah.
And it really does, David, build faith. And you take responsibility for your life. Your grandfather at 14, I can't imagine what he was like at 24. Talk about responsibility.
Yeah.
He created something out of nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And Dave, I got guys that graduate from college, and they can't get a job, whatnot. And it really drove me to write this book.
Mm-hmm.
I go, in your 20s, David, it's life experience. And your 30s, you start to narrow down what you want to do. But from 40 to 85 is when you lock in. I tell guys, pick a direction and commit to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have, David, with alignment and now pastoral work, those are complementary. I mean, I was a policeman for 8 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
It prepared me more for this job than anything I've ever done. I saw couples blow up, rage. First day on the job, a woman shoots her boyfriend through the eye. I remember thinking, okay, I've never seen that level of conflict, but that's where it goes
Yeah.
when it's not handled.
Hmm.
But David, going back to your having that life plan, and the next piece I want to go into is women love men. Guys, they're not the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
The war of the sexes is over. Now it's the war within us. This is the most serious war battle.
Yeah.
On a spiritual, emotional, psychological level. Us taking care of ourselves, Dave, on the inside.
Yes.
If we're doing that, good things happen.
I find that interesting that you said that it's no longer a war of the sexes. And I see that now more than ever, where women, more than ever,
Yep.
are starting to become more vocal in the political realm,
Mm-hmm.
in the leadership realm,
Mm-hmm.
all these different areas. If you're paying attention, you're going to start seeing more women raise up in government issues, all kinds of stuff, right? And I always thought about that. And I've been pondering this for a while. And it's like, why are so many women raising up? Where are all the men? It blows my mind,
Yep.
And at first I thought of it as, okay, well, it's this agenda. It's I'm a woman, I could do the same job as a man. I thought of it like that at first, being very narrow-minded.
Yeah.
And then I had to rethink again and be like, no, what it is these women are trying to rise up rouse men up to step into their calling, to be leaders. I don't even think they even know they're doing that, but it's a spiritual awakening that's happening right now. For far
David,
too long, too many men have stepped back.
Okay, so in the book here, I have the introduction written by my dear friend, Charles, and also by a woman, has written about, she's worried about the brotherhood.
Yeah.
Her
crazy.
brother. Yeah. Hey, Dave, can I tell you something? When I see women stepping up like that, I love it. That was my game. See, I tell guys, like that guy that says, are you a man? He's threatened by a woman. No, we're in this together.
Mm-hmm.
we embrace, okay, feminism is you and I accepting women who they are. I'm not talking men, or women who hate men. That's something else. Or men who hate women. We're not talking about those. On the 80% of us, we do better. We do better as a team.
Yes,
Let
absolutely.
me tell you something right now. If my wife does not emotionally fund me, this book doesn't get written.
Yep.
I gave her a book and I put that in there. And she looked at me. I knew you believed in me doing this. That's all I needed. I didn't need you to do anything else, but I knew that you believed in it. Like your wife believes in what you're doing, David. Moving the family out here to California from New Mexico, your wife believes in it.
Mm-hmm.
David, that's gasoline in your tank that you can't buy.
Absolutely.
And that's a strong woman.
Mm-hmm.
FDR doesn't do as well if he doesn't have his wife, Eleanor. All right? I tell guys, don't worry about their marriage. They were a team through dark history. Martin Luther King, team. Now, there are other saints that didn't have a partner, but Gandhi had a wife, and his wife told him, free India.
Mm-hmm.
And he was in prison, and she came to see him every day. Now, that funds your project.
Absolutely.
You know, right?
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely, 100%.
When I see women fill in the gap, I'm like, God bless you, man. Let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like coaching Little League Baseball. There was a woman who was one of the coaches. I remember asking her, how'd you get into this? Like, what happened? My son wanted to play baseball, and his dad didn't want it. I go, awesome. I go, why don't we coach together next year? And we did.
Mm-hmm.
We had a great time. In fact, we all do better with a little femininity, okay? You know, a little estrogen helps out. Kind of,
yeah,
the rough edges, David, kind of smooths them out a little bit. You know, it really helps, man. It's for the betterment, Dave. But I agree with you. If women stepping up, it's because we can't sleepwalk, David, and think it's going to work any longer.
Mm-hmm.
Your grandfather, I love that story. I can't imagine at 14. Yeah. I mean, my dad left Australia when he was 22 or 3. And he said they were 20 years behind because they barely had cars or whatnot. He came to this country and worked at a gas station and met my aunt who set him up on a date with my mother.
Wow.
I know. It's wild. He goes, I had nothing to lose, everything to gain.
Mm-hmm.
And Dave, that becomes our work ethic. Like you have a work ethic, Dave, but it started back in Portugal.
Yeah.
That work ethic comes through the generations.
Yeah, it does for sure.
Before we stop here, I tell guys, no matter how awful your father was or absent, there are some good things in him. Find them. Find the good in him because it's worth it. And even though my mom was very angry and dependent on me, it was a long time that I'd get angry at women because I didn't know how to deal with it. But I realized my mom also taught me how to feel for other people.
Yes.
How to have compassion or empathy, you know, and how to learn how to say no. That's a big one, D. That's a big one. Learn how to say no. There's a say, you can't say yes until you learn how to say no.
Wow.
And as a man, that's a big one.
Yeah, it is for sure.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised how many guys can't say no. I mean, I deal with it all the time where guys cannot turn down a call out because for whatever reason they feel shame.
Yep.
You know, whatever. You know, they get guilted into it. Whatever. You know what I mean? But they can't say no.
Can't say no. David, I've got to learn how to say no better, but you know, it's a work in progress. And guys, this is all fluid. It's all fluid. It's an ongoing. And people go, well, this happened. I go, we keep evolving till the day we leave here.
Yes.
All right. Easter's coming. Greatest story ever. Greatest story ever told. Out of the darkest moment comes a miracle. Jesus' learning didn't stop until the day he left here. Yep. And that was his greatest moment. Same with Gandhi and the different legends, Martin Luther, all these great saints and role models. They all kept learning till the end. And I tell guys, don't sit back because you made a certain amount of money. That's wonderful. Now let's work on some other areas.
Yes.
And, you know, and another thing I remind guys that do not use money as a way of avoiding your life. don't use money to insulate yourself from living.
Wow.
Don't do it because you'll end up very alone. And John D. Rockefeller is a cautionary tale, as is Jeffrey Epstein. He used, guys still emulate him. He used power, money, and position. But the last piece, exploitation. When you exploit people, David, it never ends well.
No.
Never ends well. And I tell people, Jeffrey Epstein is a cautionary tale for us.
Yeah.
You can have it all, but if you don't have your heart and soul connected, you have nothing.
Absolutely. That's one of the things I've seen, even with at a lower level, at the level that I'm at with the line trade. Right, these guys are making better than most.
Yeah, doing well.
Power and money, and that corrupts.
David, it's not to be avoided, but boundaries. See, and that gets back. You have a life plan. You have a life plan, Dave. I have a plan. And when you have a plan, you know where you're going.
Yes, you do. You have to have a plan.
When you got in that car from New Mexico, you knew you were heading to California, metaphorically.
Oh, yeah.
Not South Dakota. Nothing wrong with South Dakota, but you knew where you were going. And I tell every guy, some people say, well, I don't have a life plan. No, everyone has a plan. Everyone has a purpose. Whatever it may be, find it. It's in you. It may not be sexy or glamorous. Doesn't matter. You still have a plan.
Still have a plan. And don't forget the process, right? It's
all the
process. Is the sanctification.
Yeah.
You are continuously changing.
Oh my God, dude. Yeah. Look, since I've met you, how much you've helped me. I've watched you, how much you've changed. It's wonderful.
Thank you. I appreciate
coming from New Mexico, what you're doing here now, and the people you're reaching. Come on, this is great work. You're very humble. It's hard because you're in it. But Dave, as I watch your work and your wife, what you're doing, your family, this is good, man. You're doing it. Proud of you.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Dr. Steve.
You're welcome.
And it does, like you said, it takes me making that decision to lead my family. And it takes my wife encouraging me.
Yep.
Because without those components.
Hey, Dave, there's no way you're moving out here unless your wife is on board. No way. No. And you know something? And good for you. She is. Look how good it's turned out for you both.
Yeah.
And like my wife, I want to do a workbook. A workbook's coming, guys. I want to do workshops, Dave, with guys like you. We'll talk more about that. It's coming. But she's already signed off on it.
Good.
And she's like, okay, you need to do that. And she says, you need to work with men. She says that to me. I'm like, oh my God, you're right.
Well, it's much needed, especially in today's age. I talk with industry leaders around the country, and
oh God,
they always say the same thing. How did we get here? How do we change the culture? Those are the two number one things.
David, and I'll end with this. I hear a lot of despair and hopelessness. Things are good. Now we change it one guy at a time.
Yes.
And number two, and I always ask the guy, okay, you've identified the problem. What are you doing to be part of the solution? Tell me what you're doing to be part of the solution. Let me tell you something, David, that stops the narrative.
Yes.
Because that's responsibility. I'm trying to be part of the solution on my end.
Exactly. And it's funny that you said that, Dr. C, because that's all these influencers you hear out there. They have nothing but rants and no solutions.
David,
nothing.
I could tell you right now, if I was in politics, I'd be discussing solutions.
Yes.
Because David, these guys on social media, by the way, okay, that's another discussion, okay?
Yeah.
Let's just move on to another discussion. Let me tell you something. I listen to guys like you who talk about solutions because that's authentic. Now, I may not agree with it, but we're going the right direction.
Yeah.
You're trying to make a better outcome. God bless you, man. There's some guys talk about how to do child custody differently. Wonderful. Or how to get, manage stress. But David, I always tell people, who's a good leader? A, it's about you, not them. And B, they're empowering your dreams. And C, we're talking about solutions.
Yes.
We know the problems. That's easy.
Yes.
David, that's easy. That's like eating junk food. It gets you nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Eat some meat. Eat some real meat. That requires responsibility and action.
I like
I was
that.
nervous coming on today because I didn't know what. There's so much to say. I prayed. I go, Lord, let's do this, and here we are.
Well, it was fantastic. I truly believe that our listeners are going to be blessed by this, Dr. Steve. And
Oh man, thank you.
when's this book coming out?
Okay, David, it comes out at the end of March.
Okay.
Okay, and I will as soon as I get copies, David, I'll call you. All right. You
Okay.
can order it on Amazon. Modern Masculinity, a compassionate guidebook to men's mental health. And we could have said spiritual health, physical health, relational. It's all related.
Yes.
Okay. We said mental health because men are starting to realize it matters.
Yes.
And by the way, guy, here we go. I'm at the gym yesterday, and this guy is bench pressing, or this is on Saturday, and I know he needs help. So I asked him. All right, I'm fine. Don't worry. Boom! Bounces off his sternum. I think he broke his sternum.
Wow.
I come up with help and get him up. And he goes, "Oh shoot, he goes, guys don't ask for help." I go, "True, but men do. Men ask for help."
Yes.
And he looked at me like he saw a ghost. I go, "Dude, men ask for help. Don't be that guy. Are you okay?" I go, "Just go home. Don't, But I knew it. His intentions were good, but he thought he was weak if he asked for help. I'm like, no, that's courage.
Yes.
That's strength.
That's absolute strength. Well, once again, Dr. Steve, thank you for coming on here, brother, and sharing your insights. The show notes, I'll have how they can order your book, and we look forward to doing more work with you, brother. Thank you.
Hey, David, I'll be with you around Father's Day, and we're going to talk about how to reconcile with the Father inside of you.
I look forward to that one.
Yeah, man. God bless you, brother. Hey, David, thank you as always.
Yep, thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.